Hi, everyone, and welcome to Let's Get Visible, a podcast for small business owners, helping them to grow, have a sustainable business, and get more visibility online. I'm Dawes Brown, and I'll be bringing you SEO and digital marketing tips, as well as interviews and conversations with other small business owners. So, let's get started. I'm super excited today to be joined by Kerry Dover. So Kerry is a strategist, facilitator, and creator of the Momentum Movement. She runs the Momentum Architects, which is a performance design agency helping individuals and teams to get the best out of themselves, to create greater momentum in life, and unlock new levels of personal potential. Originally from the UK, Kerry spent many years working in marketing and management roles for brands including the AFL, NRL, Big Pond, Census, and Health Coaching Australia. But it was when she started her own consultancy focused on foundational brand strategy for small business that she really started seeing the power and the connection of mindset and performance coaching with business success. She wholeheartedly believes that if you build great humans the same way that you build great businesses, through strategy, systems, and strengths, taking principles from businesses alongside neuroscience, positive psychology, NLP, and strengths-based coaching, an accredited Gallup Strength Coach, she delivers performance programs for organisations around the country, as well as helping individuals and business owners design the lives they truly want to be living. In addition to the Momentum Movement, a membership community for those who are ready to become the next best version of themselves, Kerry also runs an 8-week performance elevation program, is the host of the Momentum Life Project podcast, and has written the Momentum.me journal to aid productivity and performance. So without further ado, welcome Kerry. Yay!
Thank you so much for having me, Dawes. I am so excited about this one, and congratulations on the launch of your podcast.
Thank you so much. And I'm really excited to have you on the podcast because my very, very first networking experience in Wollongong in the Illawarra was with you being the guest speaker. So it just made sense to me that the very first interview that I ran on the Let's Get Visible podcast was going to be with you, obviously because you're awesome, but there was that connection with you that I guess, always had, and you've always stuck in my brain and stuck in my mind when I was launching my small business, and just attending that first networking event and seeing you guest speak. Again, you were just that real critical part, I guess, of me launching my own little place and little platform for small business owners. So thank you for agreeing to be the first guest, and I can't wait to go through your journey as well.
Oh, that absolutely makes my heart sing. Thank you, Dawes. And I only knew recently that was actually how we first met. I had I'd known about you for so long, but it was only recently when you said that was your very first networking event around here when I was talking. So amazing.
I know. All good. So I do have a couple of questions, and these are mainly to keep us on track because I tend to go on a bit of a tangent when I get really excitable. So I thought I'd go through in detail some questions, and that way we can also give our audience some juicy bits and pieces about some different things. Obviously, visibility will be involved as part of that discussion for this podcast. But to kick off, I think the most important part is to, I guess, understand where you're coming from. So where your business journey started and why you decided to launch your own business in the first place.
Gosh, okay. Small question to start with there, Dawes, right? So I guess to do that, I probably need to give a little bit of context to your listeners. As you said there in the intro, I am originally from the UK, and I've been in Australia for, it's 14 years ago now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. 14 years ago, I came out here backpacking, and I never quite made it back home. So my background in the UK, and also when I first got to Australia, was very much in corporate marketing. So my background and my qualifications are all in business and in marketing. But it was when I met an Aussie sailor on Anzac Day, actually playing two up, that life really changed.
Oh wow!
Yes. I'm not sure if it's a great story or a really bad story, but ended up following that Aussie sailor around the country. The Aussie sailor then became my husband, and we moved to the beautiful South Coast. So we're now living in Kiama on the South Coast of New South Wales. Now, when we first got to the South Coast, I'll be perfectly honest, I cried for 3 weeks straight, because I was like, my corporate career's over. What am I going to do down here? There are no big corporates. There are no huge marketing departments. So really the reason I started with my business was because I couldn't find another job that I wanted to do, which I don't necessarily recommend is the right way to approach starting a business. If anybody has read the E-Myth, I love that book, Michael Gerber's The E-Myth, then I've probably made every single mistake that he outlines in that book. And starting with number one, I can't find another job, so I will just create my own, was the idea behind it.
I love that. Yeah, why not? Why not?
Why not indeed? Why not indeed? So that all started, and really what I started with was a consultancy called Pepperpot Marketing a few years ago.
Yes, and that's how I connected with you at that networking launch. That's right. Yep.
Absolutely, yes. So Pepperpot was my baby back in the day, and Pepperpot really existed because I looked around the South Coast and very regional area, so small business, and went, right, small business owners who don't have the luxury of a marketing department. So how can I really provide that environment for them? So it became a bit of an agency right from the get-go. The issue that I found very early on was that people were then going, oh, fabulous. So can you do this? And can you do this? And can you do this? Everything from, the brand strategy, which is my forte, right through to the SEO and the web development, which is certainly not my forte, and very much more in your lane. And I am certainly not the expert in that area. So I was actually finding that I was getting more and more stressed and overwhelmed, and really taking on more and more and saying yes. I mean, this is what a lot of us do as small business owners, right? We launch and we say yes to everything because we're so desperate to,
my goodness, yes.
Provide a great service to our customers, and we don't want to say no to them, but also going, oh, we're so desperate to grow and so desperate to make money in those early days that we say yes without necessarily really thinking.
I'm nodding my head vigorously here. I know the audience can't see us, but yeah, I'm nodding vigorously because I totally get that, and being in that yes space to everything, totally.
Yes, no, and we all do it, and it's no fault of our own, right? Because there isn't really a manual that you can read for starting a business, and so I really progressed from there to then saying, okay, well, let's strip everything back here. Let's stop trying to build a little empire, and let's focus on your zone of genius, which is really that sort of that brand foundation, that let's build strong foundations for the business, and then let the experts do their thing in all other areas.
Love it.
Yourself with SEO and with the online piece. So that's really where Pepperpot came from. And then, I mean, fast forward again, what I was finding is a lot of people, it wasn't anything to do with the implementation, but it was the mindset that was really getting in their way. So that then really developed into the Momentum Architects, which is what I now run today, and really helping both individuals, business owners, and teams to really master that mindset and really get the most out of their potential. So as you mentioned in the intro, really looking at how we build a business using the same sort of principles, how we build a human and a business using those same core principles, which to me is really strategy, systems, and strengths.
Beautiful. Love it. And I love how you as you said, moved into that space of your own business, and sometimes it comes out of circumstance. So it's not something you plan for. You don't sort of wake up, one morning at the age of, 25 and say, oh, when I turn 30 or 35 or 40, this is what I'm going to do. I think it's just something that progresses you and gets you to that destination because of situation, because of circumstance, but you also had that extensive background and experience doing it and working for other organizations and businesses that, hey, why not do it for myself? And sometimes jumping in the deep end and taking the plunge is the way that, we need to sort of venture into that space. But yeah, so many of the points that you said have resonated with me. And that kind of ties us into, I guess, the next question that I had, which was your genius. So how you best help or serve your audience, your customers. And if you can tell us just a little bit more about that process, so I guess our audience can get an understanding of that as well, and how from a small business perspective that might, assist them with moving forward in their business.
Great question, Dawes. Great question. So really how I alluded to that in the other answer, so the business journey, really, where I am now is understanding that a lot of us, and myself definitely included, we self-sabotage. And I truly believe that if we can get out of our own way, really, a lot of the time as small business owners, yep, then it really is ourselves that is stopping us from moving forward and really, taking the success that we want and taking the life, or designing the life that we really want to be living. And for me, definitely, and I've seen this time and time and time again in people that I work with, whether from a coaching perspective or whether running workshops, or working with teams even, is that we're probably even more scared of success than we are of failure a lot of the time. And I genuinely believe that if we can get rid of some of those limiting beliefs and really stop the not allowing ourselves to achieve that level of success, that let's be honest, we all deserve it, right?
We sure do.
We sure do. And if we can just get out of our own way, then we are we're going to be set up for much greater success in work life and in play. So really what I work with is that mindset piece. And it really is going back to the strategy. So when I talk about strategy in humans, it's really that why. It's the vision, it's the mission, it's the purpose. It's why you're doing what it is that you're doing. Because if you don't have a strong reason behind you, then nothing else is going to flow. It really isn't. I'm sure in the work that you do with your clients, then the ones that come to you and go, right, I know exactly what I'm doing, I know exactly where I want to get to, and these are my goals, then they're so much easier to work with than somebody that just goes, oh, I just want I want some SEO. I want to get out online. I want to be number one on Google. Well, why?
Yeah.
So I truly believe that asking the question why is super, super important in everything we do. Secondly, it's the systems. And when I talk about systems, I'm not talking about, literally the tech behind us, or although it might be in business, but really the habits and the routines and the consistency. So, building those great habits that we've got, building those routines into our life that we can then really have the foundations laid for great success. So those performance hacks, those life hacks, those things that just make life easier, because if we can get those foundations right, then we can just continue to build. I'm a massive fan of the 1% attitude. If we can just be 1% better today than we were yesterday, and 1% better tomorrow than we are today, look what's going to happen over the course of a year.
I love it.
Exponential growth there. So really it's the strategy, it's the systems, and then it's the strengths. And again, I'm a massive fan of the Clifton Strengths Finder assessment. As you mentioned there in the intro, this particular tool actually changed my life when I did it. When I looked at my top 5 and then opened up to the full 34 themes that they talk about, it really just gave me permission to be me. And to go, okay, this is my zone of genius. It's going to sound a little trite, I guess, but I genuinely believe that I was put on this earth to inspire others to do their life's best work. And if I can just, give somebody that little ounce of encouragement that day, or spark an idea, or help them to move that little bit more forward for a goal, or to achieve something that they really want to achieve, then, I'm a happy bunny at the end of the day.
You totally do that, because I know that we've had our catch-ups and our sessions, and you've always, after every call or every catch-up that we have, I walk away and I totally feel inspired, and I might have had imposter syndrome just before we've had that discussion or catch-up, and then after I've spoken to you, I'm like, hell yeah, I can do this. Absolutely, I can do this. Why am I putting up my own roadblocks, in the way? And so I think that is your calling. I think you've hit the nail on the head there, because that's totally the reaction that I have, and, the outcome that I have, that you've pushed me forward to do things that I've stopped myself from doing just from having those catch-ups and conversations. So, yeah, absolutely. I agree with your bits there.
I have goosebumps hearing that, Dawes. You have absolutely made my day. So thank you so much for saying that. That's truly what I believe that I've been put here to do. So
it
thank
really
you so
is.
much for saying that.
It really is your genius. Absolutely. Love it. Now, hindsight is a great thing. Is there anything that you would do differently, and why? Any sort of little nuggets of advice that you could give small business owners or those who are looking to launch a business? And if you think back to where you started and some of the experiences that you've gone through, is there anything that you would necessarily do differently or change?
Wow. I could probably write a book or an entire series of books on what I would do differently. So let me try and narrow this down so that I don't talk for
maybe
4
have
hours.
A top 3. Yeah, maybe like a top 3.
maybe the top 3. Gosh,
yeah.
There are so many things I would do differently. I think the biggest piece of advice I would sort of go back to my pressing launch on my business self, though, would be to really give myself permission to be me. Which again, I think in the early days particularly, and I've seen this happen time and time again with other business owners I've worked with, and I think we all have to go through it. It's almost like our rite of passage,
baptism.
It's the baptism of fire, right? And so often, though, we try and emulate what other people are doing, and we see what other people are doing. We're like, okay, well, how have they got there? Right, I can do that. If I just follow the same steps, then I will get there.
And reverse engineer some of that process.
Exactly, and reverse engineering. And by saying that, I'm not suggesting that we should totally throw the rule book out, and totally not follow any frameworks or any systems or, any kind of pathways that have been set out before us. I wholeheartedly believe that we should. But just giving ourselves permission to sit in, like we just said, our zones of genius, and allowing ourselves and our own personalities to come through, rather than trying to be somebody else that we weren't. I remember I started a blog back in the day called Confessions of a Small Business Owner, and originally it was it wasn't called that at all, but it was just sitting on my website, and it was a blog because at the time I was like, right, everyone's writing a blog, I have to write a blog, content marketing, content marketing, this is what we have to do. Yeah. You've been there, you know what I'm talking about. And again, I'm not suggesting content marketing isn't good. It's great. Yeah. But at the time I was like, I've got to write it just because I have to. And I put no real strategy behind it. I shouldn't admit this as a marketer. And it was just like, I just need to write a blog. And it took me so long to publish them, because I realized what I was doing is writing for my peers, and I was writing for other marketers, and I was putting together things like, I don't know, the 4 P's of marketing and how you can use them in modern day business, or something equally as horrendous. And then every time I actually read through the blog post, I was like, but all I'm doing is second guessing myself and going, oh, but would the textbook actually really say this? Or would, the marketing expert, agree with me here? Or would this be exactly how this is taught in universities these days, et cetera, et cetera. And I wasn't writing for my audience. I was writing for my peers. And that was the biggest realization that I made, because I'd posted probably 2 blog posts in a year. And then I went, is this serving my customers? No, it's not. Is this helping anybody in any way, shape or form? No, it's not. And as soon as I dropped that barrier, and as soon as I actually took my own advice that I would give to other people, and really go, well, who is your audience? Who is your clients? And let's really write for what I call your avatars. And suddenly this whole weight lifted off me, and the words just came tumbling out. And since then, for years I published pretty much a weekly blog, because I was writing for my actual audience rather than second guessing myself and getting into that. You mentioned imposter syndrome earlier. It was 100% that. I was so in my own head, and I wasn't helping anybody, not me, not my clients, and yeah.
Love it. So a huge light bulb moment, and you just mentioned something really important there. It then allowed you to find your flow. And this is something that I see a lot of small business owners go through, even with the SEO component, is they're trying to put themselves and position themselves into this box, because as you said, that's what everyone else is doing. So instead of finding your own specific genius and your own moments where you can just be you and do it your way. Yes, there is a pathway. Yes, there are some terms and conditions and things that you need to follow, because, that's how it goes. But the permission to be me, I think, is such a great learning curve, and what you've been able to take away from this, that it then sets the foundations for everything else that you do. Because when you're being yourself, you're in that flow, you're in that zone where it's just coming more naturally, and so you don't have writer's block, you don't have other hurdles and speed bumps, because you're like, well, this is me, and I'm just putting out there exactly what it is that I'm thinking, that I'm feeling, and it's coming from the heart. Like, as corny as that sounds, when it comes from that good place, and when the intention is a heart-centered intention, then everything else just naturally comes out and flows, rather than you trying to stick to these rules and regulations because you think, oh well, that's what everyone else is doing, and I wonder if I'll be accepted. I wonder if they'll like me. I wonder if, this is going to resonate with everyone or anyone in that fact. And again, it's just really hitting me in the gut when you said that, because it was exactly what I went through launching my small business as well. And I was so concerned and so worried whether I was fitting within the mold. It just got to the point one day where I went, you know what, stuff this. This is doors. You either like doors or you don't, and I'm okay with that now. But it's taken, a good 40 odd years to get to that point. And I think it's quite difficult, because we do go through life trying to get that acceptance from our peers, from our customers, from our friends, from our families. And we feel like we're almost letting everyone else down if we're not saying something that's in agreement with what their ears want to hear. But you've just got to take a step back and go, yeah, I've gone around the sun 42 times. This is me. This is who I am. You either like it or you don't. You either grab a seat on my bus or you take someone else's bus, and I'm okay with that. So that's, I love that you've taken that as a learning as well, because I think a lot of us have experienced that, especially when launching a small business. What was the number 2? So that was number 1 of hindsight.
Number 1, yes. Number 2. Yes, absolutely. And just to totally echo what you've just said, that as soon as you can stop trying to be perfect, then it really does. You're right. That flow just comes out. So thank you. You probably said that a lot more eloquently than I did, but I've said it time and time again. So number two is definitely allowing myself the thinking time as well. This was something that, again, in the early days, I was so busy trying to do the client work, I guess. And this is really bundled up, I guess, sort of number 2 and number 3. Number 3 is pricing. my nemesis is pricing, but sort of bundled up with number 2 and 3 is really that I got so busy in the doing that I forgot to do the thinking. And, you know, I guess this is sort of worked in the sort of the cliche, you know, spending time on your business rather than in your business. But for me, definitely it was trying to take that step back and actually smell the roses, you know, give yourself time to celebrate what you've done as well, because it's so easy to just get to another week and you fall on the heap and the floor and go, great, I've got that client report out, or I've got this out, or I've got this out, or, you know, thank goodness I've done X, Y, Z on my task list. I'm very much a task list person. Yep. So everything is driven by my task list. And to really not allow yourself to step back and go, look at what you've actually built. You know, it's phenomenal what we're creating. We're creating things from scratch, you know, as small business owners. So we should be pretty proud of ourselves a lot of the time in what we can actually achieve. But so often we're like, great, done, next, done, next.
This is resonating with me a lot.
And just getting into that churn. It's so easy to get into that churn and that day-to-day operations of get this done, get this done, get this done, get this done. You know, it's just like an engine going and going and going. And allowing yourself that time to step back and reflect. So both reflect and then also, you know, dream about the future. You know, just allowing yourself that space to really set these new goals and to go, right, is everything on track with where I want it to go? Is it still even what I love doing?
Yes.
You know, because so many times, I've spoken to so many people who've been in business for like 10 years, and then do you love what you do? And they're like, oh no, I don't. I dread getting up every day, you know, and that breaks my heart because, you know, go and work for someone else then if that's the case.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's okay. And that's okay too. Totally okay. I really do believe that there are two distinct types of personalities or people in the world. Those who were born and made to you know, be entrepreneurs or run their own show, and others who actually work better when they're working for somebody else. And that's okay. And knowing the difference between the two is totally fine. You know, that's what makes us individual and that's what makes us who we are. But I've definitely seen that in my lifetime and my experience. Yeah, there's two distinct types of people. So that's really good point. But I love that you've got the reflect and dream, because how many times are we just running a million miles an hour, as you said, going through our little tick box? And I'm quite structured as well. So every single minute and hour of my day is in a calendar, whether that's personal time or whether that's work time. It's all scheduled in. But I don't have any scheduled time to think, reflect and dream. So already from this convo with you, that I'm sitting here going, I need to go through my May calendar and the months, you know, preceding that. And I'm actually going to have to pencil in that time to reflect and to think, because I'm such in the doing moments all the time that I'm not stopping, I'm not smelling the roses, and I'm not taking time to celebrate all of the wins. And the other thing you mentioned that really hit me right in the guts was that we're creating amazing things from nothing. You know, like we're not taking enough time to recognize that and to say, hey, Kerry, hey, Dawes, you actually did a pretty good job of that. And look how far you've come from the day that you launched and the day that you started your small business to now. You know, and look at the progress, the experiences and the impact you've made to other people. And it's usually we're waiting again for that recognition to come from someone else, but we don't actually give it to ourselves. So that's a crucial point. And then you said your third one, which is your nemesis, which is pricing. And I know that a lot of this is going to hit me again. So tell me a bit about that.
And again, you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, right? And again, this is something that I know I've done totally wrong, and I've seen it time and time and time again with everybody, you know, with small business owners that I've worked with. But being confident in your pricing early on is something that I would definitely have changed going back.
Yes.
Because Yeah, I think, and this I'm going to say it is a female thing as well. Men, yes, they do have certain elements of this, but I do think it's women that suffer from it more so than men, in being confident in our pricing, because we're almost, I know I've done it. I'm almost apologetic when I hand somebody, you know, an invoice, or I tell them what the pricing will be. And I know I have spent many, many, many years undercharging and underselling, and really, not being confident in my delivery of what I have to offer.
Yes.
And again, it goes back to these limiting beliefs, you know, like, what is my zone of genius? Where do I sit here? And, you know, what do I have to give to the world, really? But the pricing, oh gosh, again, so many people are pretty much giving things away, and there's so much wrapped up in here. And obviously the pricing psychology and the psychology around pricing products and services is huge, and definitely for another podcast, not for this time.
Yeah.
But it's if you go in too cheap, you know, and if you undersell yourself, it's not doing people a favor. It's actually devaluing what you've got. And it's really, again, it's taken me many years to learn this lesson, but so often now I've also seen other people go, oh, that's too cheap. And suddenly that hits you and goes, what do you mean it's too cheap? And if something is too cheap, they actually genuinely don't value it. They don't have enough skin in the game, you know. If you paid a lot for something, I mean, you look at clothes, really. I don't know whether you're like me with this, but if I've paid an awful lot of money for an item of clothing, I do view it slightly differently.
Absolutely.
To my general, you know, the rest of my wardrobe, where, you know, I've sort of gone to the bargain bin or the sale rack. I'm a great bargain hunter, but yeah, you feel different. You feel different if you put on that really expensive coat that, you know, you invested in, versus throw on your work dress, or, you know, your pair of like daggy jeans that have been around for ages. So, and I think pricing is exactly the same. You wear pricing differently. And for anybody starting out, whatever you're about to charge, double it.
That's a good rule of thumb, actually. Yep.
Yeah. And it feels icky. It actually feels icky. I know in the early days, I can't believe I'm going to say this, you know, while we're recording, but I've been in tears pressing send on an invoice, because I've been having these whole feelings come up going, have I done a good enough job this month for this client? You know, is there enough value in what I've demonstrated? Should I have sent another report? Should I have added this other thing, you know, for X, Y, Z? And I've actually been in proper tears going, are they going to pay me? Because have I done enough? You know, and so pricing in hindsight, just being a lot more confident in what I have to offer, and a lot more confident in going, this is what it actually costs me.
Yep. And so many of us go through this same feeling and this same process. I read a post on social media. I think it could have been on Instagram, but it was something along the lines of, you know, they're not paying you for the hours, they're paying you for the years and years of experience and knowledge that you're bringing to the table. So it may only take you an hour to do, you know, that particular task or that activity as part of the service that you're offering, but that's not what your customers are paying for, because it's actually taken you 15 years to get to the point. It might have actually been Gary Vee, I think. I do follow some of his bits and pieces. I know he can, sort of come from different perspectives and angles, but yeah, some of the time his posts are absolutely on point, and it's not for the hour that it took you or the 2 hours that it took you, but it's that experience and knowledge that you've worked through and work towards through years and years, you know, of time in that role or doing that particular area that you specialize in. And that's what you know, people need to recognize. And that's why even with, you know, my services and pricing, all of my offerings are bespoke, meaning they're tailored to each individual client. But I've moved away from putting them into, you know, boxes, time boxes. Well, this is for 5 hours and this is for 10 hours and this is for 15 hours, because that's not actually what they're paying for. They're paying for your expertise, and in you're doing something that they are not in the current position to do for themselves, because that's not where their genius is. You know, they're there to run their business and do what they specialize in, and they're hiring you to do the same with what you specialize in. So, oh my gosh, so many of the points that you're raising, I just sitting here again, nodding my head, because yeah, it's really, you know, aligned, I guess, with a lot of the experiences that I've personally gone through as well as a small business owner. So now we're going to move on to the visibility side of things, and I really wanted to touch on the networking side, because as mentioned when we started out with this potty session, that you and I did meet at my very first networking catch-up in the Illawarra in Wollongong. And I'm just wanting to, I guess, share, because I know how much value the networking component has brought to my small business. It really allowed, you know, the visibility and like who Doors is and where you can find me and how we can work together. And a lot of the online and offline networking has been quite integral in order to build that visibility. I just wanted to, I guess, get from your perspective what you also I guess achieve or get out of networking, and how has it helped your business to become more visible? And do you find that it's more the in-person stuff or the online stuff that's been helpful? Just what your experience, I guess, has been, you know, with that side of small business.
Again, great question. So I hate networking. No, I shouldn't. I don't like to use the hate word, actually. No. It's a very, very aggressive word, right? Like, yes. Words have energy, and if we put too much energy behind it, then so no, it's a very aggressive word. So I remove the word hate. But I'm not a natural networker, let's say. I am pretty introverted, which sometimes people get confused about that, because sometimes I can walk in, especially if I'm running a show, you know, if I'm facilitating a workshop, then I can definitely be into that extrovert mode. But to walk into a room and have, you know, let's say 30, 40, 50 business owners that I don't know, and to actually sort of break the ice, as it were, that terrifies me. That absolutely terrifies me. It's something I have to really
work at,
yes. And I guess it's got easier over the years, but I think it probably comes back to the vulnerability piece as well, in that having the confidence in our own selves and, you know, our product or service that we sell, and sort of walking into that room and really talking about it. You know, I mean, that question, what is it that you do? I hate that question, you know, and I ask it a lot when I sort of meet new people, because I'm genuinely interested. But when people ask you, what is it that you do? And I think for service businesses in particular, it's possibly because it's quite a complex question. It's not a case of, you know, I sell beach umbrellas, you know, or something like that, you know, or I sell lifestyle products. It often is a bit more of a complex answer, and it sort of really does require a bit more context or a bit more information about the person before you could just give them that elevator pitch for
absolutely
one better phrase. So it kind of fills me with dread. And so I'm definitely not a natural networker. However, what I would say is that it is so valuable. And it really is, you know, a great way to get visible as a small business owner. It's you know, I mean, it's not free. You know, often you pay for your buffet lunch or you know, whatever else, or your ticket. But it's definitely a very low cost marketing channel to be able to actually get yourselves out there. And you know, if we're talking about small business like, you know, you and I are, then it is us. At the end of the day, we are the face of the business. We are the business. You know, yes, we might have a little team around us, but we are genuinely the business. And so a lot of what we do is built on relationships, and it's built on people, the know, like, and trust factors. And I think networking and getting out there is really a key in doing that. What I would say, again, another hindsight thing, is very early on, I thought I had to go to everything.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Everything, I used to like rock up to the opening of an envelope, as the saying goes, because I was like, oh, but yes, I should do this. I should get out there. I should meet everybody. And I was exhausting myself by doing that. And I was going, and are these really my people?
Yes.
So I think there's actually sort of two types of networking. There's networking where you've got sort of potential clients in the room, and there's also networking where you've got almost like a mastermind networking, I would call it, where you've got your peers, you've got great conversations happening at sort of probably a bit of a sort of a more intimate but a higher level. So a closer networking group versus the bigger, let's all get together in a large room where there's sort of 50, 60, 100 people. And so I think now I'm very, very intentional about the networking that I do. Really, really intentional about it. So I have my close mastermind groups. I have my close catch up buddies, so I know we catch up, quite regularly for coffees and things like that. And I value that time, no end, because we really have that trust factor that we will go, right, okay, so let's talk business, let's get down to brass tacks, and right, what challenges have you got, how can we help each other out, and really sort of talk on the peer-to-peer level. I think rather than sort of walking into that room and everyone staring at you going, so what do you do, and judging you in that way. So that side of things, not for me. I recognize that it has a place, but it still sort of terrifies me, whereas my close-knit mastermind groups and really that intention about what I want to get out of it.
I love it. And I'm going to have to take a Panadol after this catch up today, because I'm nodding like vigorously again at your responses. So much of what you've said is so true. That very first networking event that I went to where I saw you, that's exactly how I felt. I felt like a fish out of water. I felt like I wasn't 100% sure of myself and my services and what it was I was going to be offering, because I was in that real beginning stage of being that yes person. Oh, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do that. And just trying to build up, I guess, that, client base, because you're wanting to launch, you're wanting to survive, but you end up going and doing lots of everything. And you're spending most of your time, like I would be working 12-hour days and then looking back on my days and thinking, oh my goodness, what was the return of that investment of time and that ticket? Were they actually my people, or was I there catching up more on a social basis rather than a business basis? And I did exactly the same as you. I took a step back and went, I need to be a little bit more selective as to which networking events I'm attending, because you can spend way too much time, attending lots of things, but then the return on that, I guess, just isn't balancing out. So it's not that they're not valuable. I think they're incredibly valuable. And as mentioned, they've really helped build that foundation for my local and small business here in Wollongong. But you do need to be really mindful that you can end up going to 1,001 things, as you said, the opening of an envelope. And when you're in a small business, one of the things you don't have is a lot of time. So I think the takeaway from that is absolutely go to them, but be selective as to which ones you are going to. Because the other thing that I found was, in going to absolutely anything and everything, was I would start to talk to people about what it is that I did, which was, related around websites and SEO. And I'd be actually running discovery sessions at the end of it. So all of this value and all of my time, and it was all unpaid. And I'm totally, like, I still now, offer a lot as part of that sort of initial, discovery and catch up, and you absolutely need to do that. But I was finding that my services, I was giving a lot of my stuff away for nothing. And sometimes I guess the conversation, it wasn't with someone who was necessarily serious about investing in you or your services. They just kind of wanted to get what information they needed at that moment and at that time. And so I was spending a lot of time then going to coffee catch-ups and lunches and all the rest of it, but it wouldn't actually eventuate in helping my business grow. It was just kind of lots of, as you said, just giving away all this free stuff. And it was an experience that I'm grateful for, I guess, going through, because a lot of lessons came out of that. And I now protect my time. So my time is something that I just cannot put a price on, because I know that if I'm allocating time towards something, that time is then taken away from something else. And that something else could be my family time. Time that I could be spending with my kids, instead of working, 10 o'clock at night, still with the laptop on, sending emails and, as you said, sending reports and all the rest of it. So I think exactly as you said, and again, still nodding, my neck's hurting because
so is mine. I'm nodding right back at you.
So much of what you said has resonated. Absolutely valuable, but definitely be intentional and pick the ones that are going to be of most value to you. And if you're going to them for that mastermind and that support, reason, that's completely fine as well. You don't always go to networking because you want to necessarily sell 10 packages of your service or anything like that. I certainly don't. Sometimes I'll go because I want to learn something. I want to take something of value away that I can then implement into my business as well. But definitely a protector of my time, and definitely more intentional with where I go and what I do, and who I give my information away to, and the value.
So true. Everything you've just said there, like I say, I'm nodding as well with you, Dawn. And it was making me remember that saying, you are the average of the 5 people that you hang out with most, right? And again, it's a phrase that's used quite a lot. But if I truly believe it, again, as small business owners, we have to keep progressing, and we have to keep learning, and we have to keep developing. And so, yeah, you're right. We've only got this limited amount of time. So how are we using that? And, it might sound a bit data driven, but what is the return on investment that we're going to get from going and spending X amount of time
absolutely
at either an event or a catch up? So agree with you.
Now we're going to move on to the naughty C word, which is COVID-19. So as we're recording this potty session today, we're in the midst of COVID-19 and being in isolation, and that's meant quite a few changes to a lot of our small businesses, and a lot of small businesses have had to change, pivot, whatever fancy term you'd like to call it. But what changes, I guess, have you seen within your own business, and what have you had to, I guess, adapt to, or has it helped? Has it hindered? Yeah, any feedback that we can share with our audience today that might be some gold nuggets and might be helpful for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Massive shifts, massive changes, massive impact, right? As we've all gone through. I think to start with, great time to be running a training and development company, right? So to start with, very early on, I was getting workshops pulled, speaking gigs postponed, training programs put on hold. So I think the initial impact was pretty severe, and just going, wow, what is business even going to look like? Because all of my I guess forecasting for the next 3 to 6 months is suddenly very, very different from what it looked like. So I think I've spent a lot of time crumpled on the floor in heaps of tears, which I've probably mentioned about 4 times in different scenarios already on this podcast. But for that first week or so, it was like, wow, it was that real shock, I guess, and it is like that loss, that punch in the gut, going, well, how on earth could I have built this into a business model that suddenly I'm not allowed to go and be with people face to face?
Yes.
Who has that in their model when they start out? So definitely for that first week or so, it was a shock, a grieving process, a real anger, as well, and the frustration going, well, how long is this going to last? Surely you can't just destroy the economy, I guess, overnight. As time's gone on, we've been, as we're recording this, we've been in sort of lockdown, I guess, isolation. Well, not totally lockdown compared to other countries, but, in yes. isolation for a good few weeks now. And we're really not 100% sure of when the end of all of it will come. And I'm not sure that we're ever going to look totally the same after this. I am in the fortunate position that I can, I guess, hold sessions with clients via Zoom, via, all the technology platforms. Really wish I'd have had shares in Zoom. And, again, hindsight's a wonderful thing, right? Because I would be a rich woman had I had some shares in Zoom. I don't, unfortunately. But then the last few weeks have really been into opportunity mode and going, well, how do we come out a better person, a better business person, a better, all the rest of it. So I guess I'm really using the opportunity to pause and reflect and all those things that we say we never have time to do. It has given me the opportunity to launch the Momentum Movement, which is very exciting. And it's a community that I wanted to launch this year anyway. And, but it was going to be much later in the year. And really then I sat with this for a long time going, is this now the right time?
Yes.
And I'm like, you know what, actually this is a better time than ever. And I think it's more needed than ever. And with people in that sort of uncertainty and that sort of the chaos, our whole jigsaw puzzles, right, have just been thrown up off the table and we're not sure where the pieces are going to land, then so it's really given me the opportunity to go, okay, well, this is something, this has been a project bubbling away inside of me for so long, and it's given me the opportunity and the space and the time to really be able to bring it out to the world. So for that, I'm sitting in a very grateful space today. I might not be tomorrow.
Ask me tomorrow.
It is that emotional roller coaster. But in terms of changes, then yes, very much going, what is it that my clients need most from me right now? And what are my clients and the wider sort of community going to need post-COVID? And so really sitting in that space of going, again, how do I bring my genius to the world and help as many people as possible? So I'm actually very grateful at the moment.
Love it. And I love the way that you've raised the point. It's almost like going through grieving and the stages of grief, where it's the shock, and then you're upset and you're mad, and you fall into a heap. And again, neck's still hurting, because I think all of those different parts of that grieving process, at some point or another in the last however many weeks it's been that we've been in this situation, we've all kind of gone through. It's that shock, it's that sadness, it's that, now you're cranky about it, and now it's okay. I'm coming to terms with it. What can I do to move forward? Because at the end of the day, it will pass. We need to come out the other end. And are we going to come out the other end, stronger? Or are we going to lay at the bottom of the sea, like dead fish, and just kind of go, oh, well, that's what it was, and now I'm going to have to try and swim my way all the, way back up to the top again. So hearing you, I've been through that same up and down roller coaster ride, and I think, it's just important, as you said, to be able to relook at things, to sit in that place of reflection and go, okay, well, I've still actually got all these skills. All I need to do at this point is maybe restructure them or put them on a different platform, or as you said, launch things a little bit sooner than what you had planned. But right now, this is what everybody, out there needs, rather than, I guess, just sitting in a ball. And it's okay, to have your moment and to scream and to cry and be in that place and that space. And I think it's important that we do, and we recognize it and not suppress it. And rather than just keep going, go, 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 and don't let yourself break down. You actually need to, I think, have those, breakdown moments, because, that's what makes us real. That's what makes us human beings, and that's okay. But also going, okay, I've had my moment. Now I need to actually pick myself back up, and I need to refocus on what my goals are. And those goals might change and they might look a little different, but there's still things that we can do and that we can achieve, but it's looking at it from a different perspective. Another key point that you said is, I don't think any of us are going to come out of this the same way that we went in that the way that our businesses look and the way that we're offering our services, I don't think it'll ever be, the way that it was prior to COVID happening. So maybe it was a bit of an awakening. It was a bit of a, hey, you've put all your eggs in, this one basket, but diversifying your services and the channels that you can reach different people on is incredibly important to have a sustainable business. Because another thing that I see a lot of my clients, and myself included in this, is that we tend to put all of our eggs in that one basket. But if that basket breaks, or if someone comes and, takes it away, what do we have left? So this for me has really highlighted the importance of, okay, these are the services or the fundamental or core services, that you offer, but you actually need to diversify those channels to remain sustainable, because at any point, life can change. And if there's one massive life lesson that I've learned, is that nothing ever stays the same. Like, nothing is permanent. The moment that we're in right now is temporary. What happens to us tomorrow is temporary. So we've got to be able, as small business owners, to adapt and to change, because we don't have control over everything. We can control what we do and the way that we react to things, but we don't have control over circumstances that are outside of ourselves. And so if we want to stay in the game and we want to, surpass all the statistics about small business, this has been a real kick up the butt. I know it has for me, where I've gone, you know what? You actually, same as you, wanted to launch those 3 things and you kept putting it off and putting it off, waiting for the right time. And now this has gone to me, well, you know what, Dawes, this is probably the time that you're going to do it. And it's 6 months earlier than what you had planned, but now is actually the time to get your butt into gear and, to launch the things that you've been wanting to do for the past 2.5 years since launching your business. So I'm with you, sitting in gratitude at the moment, and actually, in a weird way, thankful that it has happened, only because it's, given me almost like a spotlight, and it's highlighted the gaps in my own small business where I need to, start to fill those up and make sure that I'm diversifying and remaining sustainable in my small business as well. So
love that.
Yay! so many crossovers and things that we can both relate to, which is awesome. So, Kerry, thank you so much for your time today again. I was absolutely rapt when you were like, yes, I'm going to be on your potty and I would love to be your first guest. It's absolutely, made my day. And again, it's encouraged me and inspired me to go through with this, because I have sat here and gone, but should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? And after catching up with you, it definitely motivated me to continue to follow that goal and that dream of having that podcast and being able to share this juicy goodness, with everyone else out there who's listening as well. So thank you very, very much for your time. Now, if you'd like to get in contact with Kerry and find out more about her services, she is on Facebook, so you can look up Momentum Live Project on Facebook. She's also on Instagram under the same handle, as well as LinkedIn under Kerry Dover. And her website is themomentumarchitects.com. Now, you did mention during the podcast as well, Kerry, that you've got the Momentum Movement Program. So I was just wondering how we can all get involved with that, if you can tell us just a little bit more about that program.
Sure can, Jules. Yes. So this is the new launch, which as I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is something that I am so beyond excited about, because I truly, at a deep cellular level, believe that this is sort of my life's work in a membership community. So this is what everything has been really, really building towards. And the the Momentum Movement even is a membership community really designed for people to take back control, really master that mindset and overcome those limiting beliefs, and really start to design the life that they truly want to be living. And the reason that I'm so passionate about it is because this is a community that is accessible to all. So this is you don't need to have the thousands and thousands of dollars in the bank to be able to then go and see your personal performance coach or, your trainer, for example. So I know for me personally, this is a program that I needed when I started my business, and, all those years and going through life generally. So, it's for business owners, but also individuals. It is for those who just want to achieve more in work, life, and play. And this is what I know that I needed. And if somebody had been in my corner helping me along back in those early days, I know that I would have been that much further along, and I wouldn't have made, yes, I'd have still made mistakes. We make mistakes so that we can learn and grow, right? But
yes,
I wouldn't have necessarily held myself back so long, and I wouldn't have been in that self-sabotage cycle for so long. So I know I needed the coach, and it was that eternal sort of hamster wheel of, I really need the coach, but I can't afford the coach. So when I get to this level, then I can have the coach.
Yes, I've been there.
that sort of cycle. So really, This is the foundation level. This is the coach for everybody. And then, get your like-minded community, get that potential really, really going. We're going to be doing online masterclasses. We've got group coaching sessions. We've got a whole online hub. We've got weekly check-ins. It really is a beautiful foundation community for people to start kicking those goals, take back control, and really start designing the life that they want to live. So
fantastic. Well, I'm in, and it's open now, right?
It's open right now.
Excellent. So what I'll do is I'll drop the link to that underneath the podcast details as well. So if anyone in the audience, I would highly encourage you to check it out. As you mentioned, Kerry, it's accessible, which is such a key thing for small business owners as well. It doesn't matter what stage of business you're at, to have something that, you can actually jump on, access. It's online, which is fantastic as well. So I'll pop the link in there and get some more people reviewing that and checking that out, which is fantastic. Congratulations on launching that. I know it was a long time coming. Really well done, and you should be super duper proud, and I can't wait to jump in there and be part of that group as well.
Thank you so much, Jules. And thank you so much for having me on the podcast. So, yes, I have absolutely no doubt that this is going to be a massive success, as is everything that you touch in life.
Oh, thank you so much, darling. And we're going to be launching an experience together as well. I'm super excited. So be sure to listen out. We'll share those details in the coming weeks, so you can learn more about that and how, you can catch up with both Kerry and I. But until next time, we'll catch you guys later. Thanks again, Kerry.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening today and making time to tune in. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please leave a review and some feedback. If you'd like to learn more about me or my services, you can find me at doreenbrown.com.au with links to social profiles, so you can connect with me on there as well. Well, that's it from me today. So see you next time for the next installment of Let's Get Visible.